Right. We talked about something earlier as well that I'd like to dive into fully, and that's so in the zeitgeist now for a couple of years. There's just been this giant concept of showing up for
Yeah.
other people,
Right.
for showing up for your friends, for your family, and how to be a good friend and a good person, a good community member, and all those things I think
Hmm.
are super valuable. But one thing that you
Hmm.
said that I think is not really spoken about too much at all is showing
Hmm.
up for yourself,
Yeah.
because I think if we can show up for ourselves primarily, I think it gives us the fuel and the foundation to more fully show up for other people. And I was hoping you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really important concept. I was just asked about that at my recent book talk and book signing out here in a suburb in Westchester, New York. So this is a this is big because self, as I said, small s self, big s self. The small s self is our societally defined self. Often, who we think we are is defined by society. It's not who we are. It's not this performative mode of I took this job because it's prestigious or because I need to make somebody else proud or I need to make people look at me and as if I am prestigious in some way or I've earned something. That's really a small s self, right? And you go out and do the faux self care that's out there. You do the vacation, you buy the clothes, all this very superficial stuff, right? Women get their nails done and their hair and all this. And you kind of notice, gee, I've spent a lot of money and time. I'm not feeling any better. So that's not showing up for yourself. Okay. Defining yourself is the way society does and succumbing to that messaging, like those are stories that are just crap. So jettison that, right? That's your small s self. You will not feel a sense of meaning in life. You will not your relationship with yourself and others won't have the depth that we all seek if we live in that small s self. The big S self is the one that relationally recognizes we're part of so much more.
Hmm.
Every tree is part of every other tree. We are connected at the level of leaves on a tree as humans. We are of the earth. So every indigenous society has known this. They define the big S self. Every contemplative practice has the big S self at the root. And notably, the root of almost every religion on the planet, when you really look for it, talks about the big S self, right? God is in each of us, right? So when you talk about self care, right, and showing up to your friends, the more we recognize that that self care shows up in recognizing we don't stop at our skin and our skulls. They feel us and we feel them. And the greatest gift we can give them is to be calmly attuned, right? Present plus, right? Attuned to them, because attuning steps us through that gate such that we're not just noticing, we're tuning in. Like these are levels of showing up. Noticing is in the middle, tuning in, and then enacting care. That brings us from the orange level 2 into the green level 3. And I'm going to show you, there's a diagram in the book that layers this in, and I can tell people what the page is.
Right. Well,
I
I
believe
want to
it's in
speak to you a bit
chapter
about
3.
how you mentioned the showing up for yourself, because I think I think the way I have understood the things you were saying was about showing up for yourself has a
Yeah,
lot to do with accountability. And the way that I interpret it, whereas, for example, if you don't show up for yourself
right.
by not, by not drinking enough water or not sleeping enough,
Sure.
then we are just simple creatures. If you don't show up for yourself by having the right nutrition, like you're going to
Right.
be hungry and tired and irritable, and then you end up being an asshole. Like all of
Love
us, all of us just have these really simple triggers. All of us, if we haven't slept well for a couple nights, we're just more irritable. Like
that. Right.
if we're like sometimes we think we're
Right.
hungry, we're just thirsty, or we're not feeding ourselves, or we're not exercising. Like there's all
Yeah.
these things that are so basic to our
Right.
biology that if we're not accountable to ourselves for what we need, and we need
Right.
care, we need connection, we need love, we need friendships, we need
Right.
these things to make us feel whole. And so the way I've interpreted the things you're saying is that if we're not accountable to ourselves for what we need, then
Right.
we can't feel safe and ready and well, well taken care of.
Grounded.
And then we can start distributing how we feel to other people.
Yes, yes. So the distribution is going to happen by default, and I'll explain the statistics around that and the science in just a minute. So the role grounding, the skill for our self role is groundedness. Grounding is defined as knowing who you are and why, and meeting your basic needs. And I'm going to explain that. Yes, water, right?
Right.
Um, Sleep. These things are huge. Water, sleep, taking time to recharge, journal, right? Um, Reset as often as you need, every hour, every 10 minutes. You can close your eyes. There's a lot of embodied practices that I recommend. One of which that I talk about in my TED talk that I get messages about it, like, oh my God, Marcy, this is just a life changing thing, is you take two fingers and you write on your palm, you trace a 3 for level 3, truly showing up. Realistically, you can trace anything. The point is that you're feeling something that's unusual and it brings you into your body, because we're only doing one thing at a time, right? Our brain, you can call it our brain, even though we have, more neurons in our gut than, dogs and cats, but, so the brain's kind of everywhere, but we're either focusing our attention, our mind is wandering, or we're sensing. So what this does is it brings us into our sensing system. And are you going to be afraid if you're focused on this soft, gentle 3 going into your hand on your palm? No. Are you going to be stressed about what does that person think about me? No. Are you going to be concerned for how am I going to get there at 4:00? My other meeting, goes until 4, right? No.
Right.
You're going to reset. So truly showing up for others does require a level of grounding that's not shallow. So you need to bring yourself into your body. You need to reset. Ideally, you clear your mind, but you're also clearing your body of the stress. So it's not just clearing your mind. Like there's a lot of phrases that we use that are so misleading and actually harmful because it's not clearing our minds. Let's face it. Cortisol exists in our body also, as does adrenaline and oxytocin and all these wonderful things. By the way, there's more serotonin and oxytocin developed in our gut than in our brain. So resetting is really important so that we can truly show up. But the mindset of everything I do goes out into the world, right? We are that pebble in the water. It goes out and we can't stop it. Someone who's with you, who observes you, even passively observes you, they're 45% more likely to do what you do. And this comes up in every podcast I do. It's the work of Nicholas Christakis up at Yale. The main 20 people who you're with are 45% more likely to think, feel, and act the way that you do. It's just science.
Right.
And it's measured with in things like voting behavior, staying married, how much you drink, the degree of risky behaviors, your body size. I mean, whether you go to the gym, all sorts of things that have been measured. But the thing is, it doesn't stop with those 20, because those 20 people are with another 20 people. So now it's 400 people. So that second degree out is 25% more likely to think, feel, and act the way that you do. It doesn't even stop there, Michael. The next 20 people out, so it's 8,000 people now, 20 times 20 times 20. They're 10% more likely to do what you do. Those are the ripples. I have just put numbers on the ripples of how we impact the world.